Welcome to Activate Your Introvert, the podcast for entrepreneurs and business leaders to help unlock more productivity and creativity so you get a better business. Have you ever thought about some people and the presence they have? It's as if they have a power that makes them a great leader or presenter. Many introverts I've interviewed feel they don't have presence because they're introverted. So today I'm really pleased to interview Jacqui Harper. Jacqui is an expert on presence and an author, a speaker and visiting professor at INSEAD. Jacqui will help you define presence and the things you could do in order to develop your presence. Of course, if you'd like to talk to me about issues raised in this podcast or others relating to introverts, please visit introvertinbusiness.co.uk. Welcome, Jacqui.
Thank you very much, John. Delighted to be on your podcast. It's really exciting.
I normally start with one simple question. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Well, can I sit on the fence? According to your test, which I did earlier today, I'm an ambivert. And actually, I knew that anyway about 4 years ago. I did a test with one of my colleagues at INSEAD where I teach. I'm just a smidgen in the extrovert category, but only a smidgen. You know, I do have the qualities of both an introvert and an extrovert, strengths and weaknesses, I guess.
Well, that's really good for two reasons. One is it says that my test obviously works because it confirms something you already knew. But secondly, as you said, the interesting thing about an ambivert is you have some of the advantages and I guess some of the disadvantages too of either. Would that be fair?
Yes, yeah, I certainly think that. So the advantage is, for sure, I can get up in front of 500 people, do a keynote, and I get energized, I enjoy it, and I can just do it, you know. And similarly, in my broadcast days, when I was working in television, you know, I'd be talking to a couple million people, 2 or 3 million people when you're broadcasting a news bulletin. So I know I can do that, and that's certainly the extrovert in me kind of powering me up there. But, you know, I do find that when I do big events like that, that I actually have to, it takes a lot out of me. I have to then quite quickly find a very quiet space and just recover and get my energy back. So I think for me, you know, the introvert part of me is definitely there. And I like to write. You know, one of the things I've done recently is I've written a book, Executive Presentations. And the process of writing a book is fabulous for introverts because you can play with ideas in your head and it's all, you know, quite internal. And so I think the two sides of me that are quite different play out in that ambivert space.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I completely agree with you, certainly about the writing piece, and that's something which lots of introverts. I was doing a workshop for some leaders, developing leaders yesterday, and we were talking about, you know, getting the team to write or make phone calls. And of course, the point I made was introverted people will normally prefer to write. But anyway, let's move on from that because you're an expert in presence. What is presence?
It's a good question because you know what, John, there are as many definitions of presence out there as there probably are nationalities. Everyone's got a different take on it. My take on it is, I think, very practical. You know, it's how people experience us, what they feel about us, what they hear us saying, and what they see, if it's you know, in vision or, you know, in person communication. And I think it's those three channels. If you're looking to develop presence, which is what I work with people on, with leaders on, if you focus on those three pillars, it will take you very, very far. So it's those three channels, how people experience us.
So how people experience, that's fascinating. And presumably, if they have a good experience, they're counted as having more presence. Would that be
yeah,
right?
So a good experience of us really is the gateway then to influence increasing impact, getting your message across, connecting to people, developing presence. If you work on those aspects of presence, it makes your presence incredibly effective.
Okay, so
simple, but it ain't easy, John.
no, I suspect, like everything in life, the simple things are normally the hardest to do. So why is presence important for somebody that's running a business or somebody that's a leader?
Well, this week I was on LinkedIn looking, as you do, through lots of bits and pieces. Up popped a piece by a PhD student in the Harvard Business Review, the 10 qualities of a leader. And, out of that list of 10, about 8 were to do with presence, were to do with the 3 pillars of presence that I've just mentioned. And I suppose the value of developing presence is it just makes you more effective as a communicator. It helps you collaborate. It helps you interact with your clients. It helps you resolve problems. I mean, really, it's at the heart of the engine of growing and meeting the challenges of your business.
Interesting thing here, and I'd be interested to know if you agree with me. I meet many people and they seem to think that presence is more of an extrovert thing than an introvert thing. Would you say that I'm right?
So I've heard that a lot, and I think even myself, as an example, I'm not an extrovert, and because of what I do, people assume I am an extrovert. I'm not. And I think the issue about presence is that you're going to show up anyway. If you're going to a meeting, if you're on the phone, if you're writing emails, you have a presence. And I think that the issue for us, whether we're extroverts or introverts, is to have an effective presence. And developing presence doesn't mean that you have to become some kind of extrovert. For me, it's about being utterly authentic and understanding who you are. If you're looking at how you want people to feel about you, one of our pillars of presence is how people feel about us. Part of that is to do with how we feel about ourselves and being authentic, and so that we show up as the people we are, whether it's part extrovert or whole extrovert or all introvert or part introvert. And I think we bring that into every part of our business interaction, whether it's email, whether it's online, whether it's on the phone. And so I think you don't need to be an introvert or an extrovert to have an effective presence.
So everyone's got a presence. I guess the message I take from that then is you've got a presence, make it work for you.
Yeah. And how?
Well, yes. So how could an introvert develop more presence?
I think the big point I would say is lean into discomfort a little bit. Obviously not to a point that makes you distressed, because in that space of discomfort, lies growth and possibility. And my example of this would be, I learned my broadcasting skills in church. So my parents were very religious. So from about the age of about 7 or 8, I remember trotting off to church every Sunday. I would stand up, little 8-year-old kid, and I'd stand up in front of 150 people. I'd read out a prayer, or I'd read out a psalm, or read out a lesson. And I got this, it was the first time I remember just shaking to the point of just utter fear. But I kind of somehow just embraced the discomfort, and I thought, well, if I get through this, I'll be all right. And it wasn't fun. I still remember being anxious. But somehow embracing that discomfort enabled me to grow. And the next time, at least I knew I could do it. And I also knew that I could get better. So my big point to introverts is giving themselves the opportunity to grow. And some of that will be some discomfort. But it can also be looking at skills. It may be that what will help you, which pillar of a presence will help you the most? Is it what people hear? So it can be voice. I mean, sometimes, leaning into the power of your voice works wonders for introverts. When you sound confident, my goodness, people react to you. So it may be developing some voice skills, very simple voice skills that can just give you more impact and more sort of personal power.
So lean into that discomfort. I like the lean into it. Doesn't mean you've got to be uncomfortable, but you're going to be, if you're going to grow, you're going to be in the kind of slightly uncomfortable zone, lean into it.
Yeah.
I love the phrase, sound confident. How does somebody go about sounding confident? Because
Okay.
many
Yeah.
introverts would say in public they're not confident.
Yeah. So to sound confident, I'll just lean into my, I love that phrase, the training I had as an anchor. So going on to BBC News before I was let loose live on the news desk, I had 3 bits of voice work that I had to focus on. I had to focus on articulation. People needed to understand clearly what I was saying and clearly what my message was. They also encouraged me to pause. I think introverts, if you're uncomfortable, sometimes you can speak rather quickly and it all comes out in a little uncontrolled way. And literally the difference between saying, hello, I'm Jacqui, and saying, hello, I'm Jacqui. You know, just putting that pause in gives you space, gives you thinking time, gives you gravitas. And just looking at where you emphasize words when you're speaking to clients or to colleagues. So I think those are the three key things you can do vocally to develop confidence.
And although we've only got about a minute left, so I'm not going to ask you for a huge detail, you mentioned some pillars.
3 pillars were how people feel about us, number 1, what they hear us saying, number 2, and what they see if it's in person, you know, if what they see us doing, our gestures, our appearance, that's the 3rd pillar. And that's quite an important pillar as well. If you want to be confident, what people see is also part of that. And coming from TV, you know, we're trained to look smart, to look the part, and also our posture suggests that we're in command and that we're in control. So
Okay,
there are
so
other things.
make sure you're using what I would call a confident looking posture, whereas I guess if you're not comfortable in a group of people, it's easy to look uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's right.
So practice what looks comfortable, what looks confident, and adapt that pose more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's interesting the psychological impact that will have by looking confident. You actually feel a little bit more confident. It doesn't completely change the stakes, but it helps a wee bit, you know.
That's quite interesting because a number of years ago, I used to do a presentation where I would say to people, and I get the group of people to stand up, and they just stand there as they were. And then I'd say, I'd like you to stand as if you were feeling really confident. And they all moved around a bit. But essentially, they stood about 2 inches higher. They just stood more erect, and I called it the 2-inch conversation.
Nice.
So we know, I guess the answer is, we know what it feels like to stand confidently. We just don't always do it.
Yeah, and sit, because often we're in meeting.
No, that's true.
Sit, you know, a news anchor will usually sit at a desk. You can sit confidently as well, and it is the posture. It's not the only thing, but it does help. It really is a big help.
Okay, so if I summarise, and feel free to correct me if I get this wrong, presence is about how others experience it. We've all got a presence, whether it's working for us or not. So the trick is to make it work. 2 good things is the way we sound and the way we look. So sound more confident, and the main thing we were touching on just now is stand or sit so that you look more confident as well. Would that be right?
That would be a great summary. Yeah.
Thank you. So Jacqui, I think that's been really, really interesting. How can people get back in touch with you to talk more detail about this?
Probably just call. Just let's have a conversation. So 0207.
Sorry, yeah, 0207.
0207 016 9709. 0207 016 9709.
Thank you for listening to Activate Your Introvert, and I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. I'd love to see your reviews on the iTunes store. Thank you once again, and catch up with you next week.